Hello, I'm Liam, and this video shows the progress in growing green manures since the original sowing in September. It's now been 1 month since the original sowing and all the seeds have germinated, and now's a good time to take a look. When I planted 2 types of green manure, the Grazing Rye and my green manure mix, because of the size of the seed, in particular the ryegrass and the Grazing Rye, I covered the beds with a net to deter birds from stealing the seed. That seems to have worked really nicely, and both crops have germinated well. The net certainly did their job. There's no need to keep them on the beds now, so I've removed them. Starting first with the Grazing Rye, I'm really pleased with how this is growing. It germinated extremely quickly, and now it's possible to see the lush growth. The individual plants are over 6 inches in height, and I've got a really good covering over the beds. In fact, the covering's so good, I'm wondering just how much the Grazing Rye will grow. I'm really pleased with the amount of leaf mass, because the whole purpose of the green manure is to store the nutrients in the leaves. And then when I cut down the green manure in the spring, the leaves will decompose and those nutrients will be returned to the soil. Another purpose of the green manure is to stop the soil nutrients and the soil itself being washed away over the winter months in heavy rain. And there's certainly enough ground cover to prevent that. Overall, I'm really pleased with the results so far. In this bed here, I have my green manure mix, which is a mix of ryegrass, mustard and clover. Grazing rye and ryegrass are actually 2 different plants, and the leaves of the ryegrass, which are these thin leaves, I'll just pick this one here. The ryegrass is less than 6 inches in height and doesn't seem to have such an upright growth habit. The biggest leaves are from the mustard plants, and the clover has germinated too, but those plants are much smaller, much more on the surface of the bed. Overall, the germination has been excellent. I've got really good coverage over the whole bed, and the height is similar to the Grazing Rye at over 6 inches in height. Because it's a green manure mix, it contains both types of green manure. The clover helps to fix nitrogen into the soil, whilst the mustard and ryegrass grow taller, produce more leaf mass, and store nutrients in the leaves, which will later be returned to the soil when they decompose. I'm really happy with the results. It's certainly providing good ground cover over the winter. In this bed I have my Phacelia Tanacetifolia, or Phacelia for short, and it should be possible to see that these plants are much smaller than both the green manure mix and the Grazing Rye. The Phacelia has almost feather-like leaves, and it may be possible to see as well that there are quite a few bare patches over the bed. Now, I sowed the seed by scattering it by hand, so that may be my mistake in not having a good enough coverage over the bed. The plants are relatively small, but where the seed has germinated, I have got quite dense patches of plants. And what I'm thinking of doing is transplanting some of the seedlings over the bare patches that I have in this bed. I'm not really sure whether germination of the Phacelia hasn't been as good as the other crops. It may be that I sowed it relatively late in September. There were also a couple of cold nights. It could be the seed, or as I said, perhaps I just didn't spread it well enough over the bed. Overall, I have more than enough plants in the bed, and I think when I do transplant the seedlings, I'm going to end up with really good coverage. I'll be interested to see just how well the Phacelia grows over winter. In this bed I sowed red clover seed, and similar to the Phacelia, I do have a few bare patches in the bed, which may be related, as I said before, to how I scattered the seed. Overall, what's really noticeable is that the red clover is much lower growing, even than the Phacelia, but much less than the green manure mix with the mustard and ryegrass, and also the Grazing Rye. What that may mean is that the red clover is less good at holding the soil in place over winter, but it does have the big advantage in that it's a nitrogen fixing type of green manure, which will add additional nitrogen to the soil. There are lots of clover plants in the bed, and similar to the Phacelia, I think what I'll do is I'll dig up some of the seedlings and spread them out over the bed to get better coverage. In this bed here I have my field beans. Now the field beans I sowed in 5 rows, spaced about 6 inches apart, and also the individual seeds I spaced about 6 inches apart, and the germination has been excellent. The plants are looking in really good health, a little bit smaller than the Grazing Rye, less than 6 inches in height, but with really good green leaves and quite thick vertical stems, so I think the plants overall are looking really healthy. As with the red clover, it is a nitrogen fixing type of green manure. with the additional benefit that there should be plenty of leaf mass when the plants have a growth spurt in early spring. And when I cut down the leaf mass, the nutrients in the leaves should also be returned to the soil. I'm really pleased with how these are looking. And that's it. That's the progress in the first month of growth. I hope over the next few months to show how the green manures grow, and ultimately how I cut them back in the spring to return the beds to growing my fruit and vegetables. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please let me know by hitting the like button or leaving a comment. And for more videos like this, please subscribe to the YouTube channel in the usual way.